Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of First Person, our weekly interview segment produced by PressProsMagazine.com and sponsored by the Buckeye Insurance Group in Piqua and the Coverman Dickerson Agency representing the products of Buckeye Insurance in Troy, Piqua, Covington, and St. Paris. Those of you who are familiar with Miami County sports, Shelby County sports over the last 20 years are very familiar with the man sitting to my right, the voice of PressPros audio streaming. For the 2011-2012 season. That kicks off this week with high school football, but really Joe Neves, we're nothing new officially because we've been doing this since April when we started with baseball. Joe Neves, our guest tonight, to talk a little bit about our streaming audio schedule. And first of all, I want to thank you for doing it with us. It's great to have you on board.
Well, I tell you, it's great to be on board, Sonny. I appreciate the opportunity. We had a lot of fun during the baseball season. I can only imagine it's going to escalate for football and basketball.
I say this all the time, and I don't mean to be patronizing whatsoever, but I'm absolutely sincere. If you're familiar with high school sports, high school play-by-play, there is no one in the state of Ohio, and I dare say in the Midwest, who does what he does better than Joe Neves on the air. And how many years have you been doing it?
About 34 now, so yeah, be about 30. This will be about my 34th season doing play-by-play.
In Miami County and Shelby County.
Miami County and Shelby County, yeah.
I know that what we're doing on PressPros with streaming audio represents a little bit different challenge for you, and certainly a little bit different medium given the fact that people all over the world can hear it. Talk to us a little bit about the advantages of streaming audio based as opposed to what you've done for the past 35 years or so on radio.
Well, I think number one, it's the quality of the broadcast, the air quality of the broadcast. If you heard any of our baseball broadcasts, it sounded like we're sitting in the living room with you. I mean, it's very clear. There's no static. There's no hiss. There's no crackle. There's none of that. That's the number one thing that jumps out at you. And I think the fact that you know, the vastness of your potential audience. If there's a Piqua game that's on, you know somewhere in Florida, in California, in Nebraska, somewhere, somebody from Piqua is going to be listening to that game. And that's a really neat feature that you don't have with the radio broadcast.
You know, to be sure, there are people who write us every week talking about the fact that they grew up in Miami County, Piqua, Troy, West Milton, Tip City. They now live outside Ohio, in Florida, California, Texas, someplace, Arizona. You know, I got an email this week from somebody in Massachusetts looking forward to wanting to know if area games would be carried on streaming audio. And, you know, the point that you made is absolutely true. You don't know who your audience is. And for those people who say, well, you can't listen to it on radio, but you can easily listen to it on the same cell phone that you make 50 calls a day on.
Yeah, that's the great thing. I think a lot of people still have the idea that, well, I don't want to stay home on Friday night next to my computer. You don't have to.
No.
The way media is anymore, if you've got a BlackBerry or an iPhone or whatever they call them, a droid. Thank you very much. You can take PressPros with you wherever you go, and again, that's an advantage that you just don't have with the local radio station. They can't match that.
We start, of course, this Friday night with the Piqua Lima senior game, but talk a little bit about the schedule we have this year.
I'm really excited about the schedule because we're incorporating the Piqua Indians, of course, along with the Troy Trojans, who are expecting very big things this season under Steve Nolan, and the Fort Lauderdale Redskins, who have been just dynamite the last couple of years under head coach Matt Burbacher.
And they've only played 6 years.
And they've only played 6 years. In fact, I talked to Matt the other day, and I said, how many years? I was thinking it was closer to 10, and he said, this is our 7th year. And I was like, you know, wow, that's just tremendous what they've done up there with their facility, with their program. I mean, it's big time football in Fort Lauderdale, and you know, it sounds funny to say it, but it's really true. And we'll also be spotlighting 3 times this year the Lehman Cavaliers. We'll also have extensive playoff coverage throughout the postseason, and you know where PressPros will be the first weekend in December. We're going to be in Massillon and Canton for the state championship. So it's going to be a very, very fun ride.
And for that matter, the last weekend in basketball, respectively, for girls and boys, because we'll be at all the 4 major state tournaments this year, girls and boys basketball as well as baseball, in June of 2012. Our guest this week is our Director of Broadcasting.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud to say that and pleased to have him. Joe Neves on PressPros and First Person. We'll be back in a minute to talk a little bit about, Joe, area football for 2011. We'll do that right after this word from the Coverman Dickerson Agency representing Buckeye Insurance Group in Troy, Piqua, Covington, and St. Paris.
The Coverman-Dickerson Agency, with offices in Troy, Piqua, and Covington, is pleased to be the sponsoring Buckeye Insurance Group agent for this first-person interview. For farm, auto, and homeowner insurance, Coverman-Dickerson is one of the area's fastest-growing Buckeye providers, with a history of service and competitive rates. And we're also an outstanding source of coverage for families with young drivers. For farm, auto, and home policies, call the Coverman-Dickerson Agency, proud to represent Buckeye Insurance Group.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's First Person. Our guest this week is Joe Neves, our Director of Broadcasting. We're talking about streaming audio of high school sports for the 2011-2012 season, beginning with football here just this week and going forward. In my view, Joe, high school football is one of those things where it's kind of wait and see. I say this year I've taken the stance of let everybody play for 2 or 3 weeks before you make any assessments of who's good, who's not, how far they can go, and I guess that holds true for every year, but I think particularly this year, given the expectations of Troy, the anticipation of a bounce back for the Piqua Indians, what Fort Laramie might do, what Covington might do in Division 5. Your views?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it is going to be a very interesting season. I think it's very hard to look at scrimmages from a fan standpoint, from our standpoint, and really get a whole lot out of it. I mean, you look at what Piqua's done in the preseason. Yeah, they've been very good, but then you come back to that question of, okay, who they play?
Yeah.
And you know, Toledo Central Catholic sounds impressive, but if they go 3-7, maybe that doesn't mean so much. They beat West Carrollton the other night. That's a program that's been down for years and years and years. So it's a little hard to put a whole lot of stock into that from our standpoint. And I think the best thing to do is absolutely what you say. Let them play 2 or 3 weeks, get through the pre-conference schedule. In most cases, Covington only has the 1 non-league game, but most teams play 3 games before they get into their conference schedule. Then you've got a little bit better feel. I think the expectations in Troy are off the chart, and they should be. I mean, they were 8-2 last year with a playoff loss, 8-3. Got a lot of people back, a lot of guys who have already played 2 years, and so their experience is tremendous. But they've got a couple of daunting tasks in front of them as far as that schedule is concerned, beginning with week 2. It's never easy to go south and play Chaminade Julienne, but week 2 with Middletown will be huge for them.
Is it your opinion, and I feel this like every year, from almost the end of the previous season to the beginning of the next season, the talk is all playoffs. Very little to do or to say about the regular season, about league championships anymore. You know, when you and I were in school, it was all about, do you win the MVL? Do you win the Western Ohio League? Do you win the Cross County Conference? Do you win the respective leagues? You don't hear that. The focus is so much on the playoffs, and now to me it takes a lot away from high school football and that 10-week period that really defines area teams.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think from a fan standpoint especially, you know, if you don't make the playoffs, a lot of fans will say, well, you know, that was
a failure.
A wash. Yeah, it was a failure of the season. You might be 7-3, you might be 8-2, you might be 9-1. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's a pretty doggone good year. You win 9 out of 10 games, regardless of what happens as far as your postseason hopes. But you're right. We're so focused on championships and playing for a championship, and it's happened in Piqua. They want it certainly to happen in Troy. They want it to happen in Fort Laramie. They want to have it happen in Covington. But you know, the idea is, number one, get better every week. That's what every coach will tell you. We want to get better every week, 1 week to the other, and that's part of the process. And then you win as many games as you can. You can't really do anything about the playoffs. I mean, it's not like basketball where you're going to go anyway. You have to qualify. You have to get enough computer points. Teams that you beat have to win games. A lot of things go into it. All you can do is take care of what you can do, win your games, go from there.
Our coverage is short of none from any place on PressPros this year for fans here in the area. On Friday night, certainly on Saturday for the games that we cover either on streaming audio or online. and it's easy to access. Talk a little bit about how easy it is, really, for those who are intimidated by computers. It's really very easy to listen to the game online.
Yeah, it really is. All you have to do is go to our site, PressProsMagazine.com, which, thousands of you do every day anyway. There's a huge button right on the homepage that says, click here to listen live. I think it says, or listen live, or it's just a big orange button. You can't miss it.
Presented by Buckeye
Insurance, absolutely. You just click on that, and it'll take you right to the broadcast. You do have to have Windows media player.
Yep.
But if
you don't have it, that's a free download.
Easily downloaded and installed. And the other great thing is, the hope is that by midnight or a little after every Friday night, the broadcast that we do will be archived and will be available on the site. So if you're going to another game, you want to come home and listen to the game that we do, all you have to do again is click on that button and it'll be right there for you, and you can listen to it at 4 o'clock in the morning in your pajamas if you want to.
He really does sound like a director of broadcasting. Joe Neves, great to have you aboard. Looking forward to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a lot of fun.
All right. That wraps up this week's edition of First Person with Joe Neves, again brought to you by the Buckeye Insurance Group in Piqua and the Coverman Dickerson Agency representing Buckeye Insurance in Piqua, Covington, Troy, and St. Paris. Join us again next time for another edition of First Person. For Joe and the sponsors, thanks for joining us this week on PressProsMagazine.com.
If you are looking for quality insurance protection from a reliable company, sold by professionals in communities like yours, that's what you'll get from Buckeye Insurance Group.
Buckeye Insurance Group, insuring the heartland.
To find your local Buckeye agent, visit buckeye-ins.com. Buckeye Insurance Group, insuring the heartland.
Insuring the heartland.